Hey everyone, in the abyss, this is Rob, and in this episode we are going to talk about Elvis. Now, as we all know, Elvis is the king of rock and roll. What a lot of people don't know or realize is that Elvis also did 32 films. And when we discuss acting, we talk about being natural in front of the camera, being real in front of the camera, being yourself in the situation rather than creating this character. And Elvis did that really, really well. He was really comfortable with himself. He was really comfortable in his own shoes. And in his films, you really get the essence of Elvis. He was not really playing those characters. Those characters were Elvis. Unfortunately, at that period of time, the studios, the directors, the producers, and such thought that the way that they could sell Elvis was by having him sing, not realizing that Elvis would sell himself, and you could put Elvis in anything. And as you see with today, with people who come from other walks of life into movies, whether it be athletes, musicians, etc., they just put them in the movies now rather than have them do some sort of their own talent in the movie. Sometimes they do, but for the most part, they're hired because the name itself sells. But back then, they didn't trust that the name would sell, and so they had Elvis sing in all of his films, or most of his films. There's one where he did not, but on the good side of that, it created some of his biggest hits, and on the negative side, some of the movies become pretty corny and cheesy at times. But what I've done is created a list of my top 10 favorite Elvis films, and once again, go on the comment section and leave your top 10, or list the ones you've seen out of the 32. Maybe you've only seen 2 or 3, maybe you've seen none. So maybe this will help you guys venture into a different period of films, because Elvis did films from 1957 till about 71, 72, I believe. I'm covering my collection, my top 10 covers 57 through 66. So the first two are honorable mentions. The first one is Love Me Tender, which was his first film. He was a co-star in that, and that's why I left that out. But that was a true Western, and he doesn't sing much in it other than the theme song Love Me Tender, which of course became a huge hit. It's a really good film to watch, and it's more of a true film, not a lot of singing in it. The other one I'm gonna mention as an honorable mention is the 1963. It Happened at the World's Fair. It was filmed at the World's Fair in '62 in Seattle. So a lot of the scenery is of that area. And in the film, it's kind of fun because you see a young Kurt Russell, 11 years old, I think, first film uncredited as a kid, who gets paid a quarter to kick Elvis in the shin. And then later on, he asks Elvis if he needs to be kicked again. So you start to see that's one of the cool things about this, is you'll see actors who have become superstars that were very young or very new to the business in these Elvis movies, which is kind of neat. But anyways, Kurt Russell, of course, went on to do 1979 Elvis the movie, done by John Carpenter for TV. And to this point, in my opinion, no one's come close to playing Elvis as Kurt Russell did. Kurt Russell was amazing in that film. So if you haven't seen John Carpenter's Elvis the movie, check that out as well. Anyways, here we go with my top 10. At number 10 is Fun in Acapulco. Interesting story about this film. The whole film was done in Mexico, with everybody, cast, crew, the whole 9 yards, except Elvis. And the reason that Elvis was not there was, at the release of a couple of his films, there were some riots at the theaters in Mexico. And because of that, Elvis movies were banned in Mexico at the time. And so he was persona non grata at the time of the filming of this. So Elvis was not in Mexico when they filmed it. So they used a body double, and then they put Elvis in the studio at Paramount to do all of the stuff and replace Elvis, of course, or replace the body double with Elvis for the film. So it was filmed in Acapulco, but replaced with Elvis in the studio. Really cool movie. It's a good starter. That's my number 10. At number 9, got Kid Galahad. This is 1963, I believe. It's a remake. There was actually a Kid Galahad in 1937 done. This is a remake. As you can see, Elvis is a boxer in it. He's trained by a young Charles Bronson, who of course went on to do Death Wish, etc. And it's a cool story because it's different than the normal stuff that you see in some of the Elvis movies, where in every movie, first of all, Elvis does sing, but he also fights. And that's the themes of a lot of Elvis movies. So this one is more of him not being such a he's a boxer rather than a thug fighter or having to defend himself by fighting, etc. So at number 9, Kid Galahad. At number 8, Roustabout. I really like this movie. Barbara Stanwyck is in the film. You see a young Richard Kiel, who went on to play Jaws in 007. He was in Silver Streak, of course, Happy Gilmore. He doesn't have any lines, but he's in the film as the world's tallest man at the carnival. This is more of the typical theme of an Elvis film at the time, where he's a tough guy who has to make his way, and so he makes his way by having a chip on his shoulder and fighting, and then of course the thing that intrigues people about him is his talent with singing. But I think this movie is really well put together, and it's an enjoyable watch. It's funny because I've been looking for this DVD forever. Some of these Elvis movies are really, really hard to find, and not a lot of them are on Blu-ray, so you have to find them on DVD. And when I was visiting my daughter in Boise, I was at a used record shop, and I happened to just be going through, and I found it for $5.99, sealed, brand new. So it was pretty cool, and lucky to find it. But if you get a chance to watch it, it's a fun film. At number 7, and a lot of people probably will have this higher on their list, the legendary Jailhouse Rock, which of course has the famous song Jailhouse Rock in it. Elvis, of course, is in jail, and when he's released, he starts to make a singing career in the movie, and it's one of the few that are in black and white. It's really well done. It's a fun film, a lot of energy, and it's actually regarded as one of the most true Elvis films in the sense of that it's regarded in film history as a great movie, and not just one of these ones that they did to have Elvis be in movies. So a lot of people will probably rank this a lot higher, but for me, it comes in at number 7. At number 6 is Spin Out, 1966, and of this collection, this one's probably the corniest, but this was also the first Elvis movie I ever saw, so I have a soft spot in my heart. I actually bought it at Graceland on VHS in the gift shop when I was there, and watched it at a hotel room in Memphis. So it holds a little history to me, and I do enjoy the songs, and I do enjoy the movie. In the movie, he races cars, and of course is a singer on the side. And you see a young Shelley Fabre as his co-lead, which she was also in Girl Happy with him, and then she went on to play in the TV series Coach. So it's a fun movie from the '60s, the late '60s. But it's definitely not a Jailhouse Rock in the terms of a classic film. But it is a fun film. All right, top 5. GI Blues. Love the soundtrack. This film was done right after Elvis, came back from the Army, and so this was a way of documenting his time in the Army in a sense. And it's supposed to be located in Germany, which is where he was stationed when he was in the Army, and it's a fun story because the military guys are chasing a girl who has a reputation, but it turns out she really doesn't have that reputation, and he falls in love with her, and you have that story along with him being at the base and in the Army, and this is 1960, so this is Elvis in the heyday, and it's one of my favorite films, and it's a great one to watch, and if you ever get a chance to check it out, GI Blues. At number 4, the legendary Blue Hawaii. A young Angela Ansbury Lansbury, excuse me, Angela Lansbury, who went on to do, of course, Murder, She Wrote, plays his mom in this film. And as you see, there's a theme with these movies, like I said earlier, that you're going to see a lot of people who become huge stars, get their own TV shows, of course, be huge film stars and stuff, getting opportunities to be in Elvis movies. Blue Hawaii was filmed mainly on the island of Kauai. And it's interesting, when I was on my honeymoon with Amy, we were in Kauai and we went over to Coco Palms. Coco Palms was the hotel that Elvis not only stayed at when he would visit Hawaii, but was also part of the filming locations, and it was destroyed by one of the hurricanes. And we went there and we were kind of snooping around, and the security guy drove up and asked us what we were doing, and we kind of explained. So he's like, hop in the car and I'll take you on the tour. And he kind of showed us where the wedding scene was filmed and where, you know, the girls were running out of the bungalows. And it's really cool because in these older movies, they filmed a lot of them on location. So when you go to places, you're actually on not only these legendary places and stuff like that, but you're also on film sets, which is really neat. So when I watch this movie, I get to see the places I was at to see where they filmed it. And, you know, it's, once again, it's a typical Elvis. I'm a tough guy chasing the girls and you know, always ending up on the good end at the end. But this one's fun because it is filmed in Hawaii, and once again, this is 1961, so you know it's Elvis in the heyday, and it's a really fun film. All right, now we're going down to our top three, and these were the toughest because I am such a fan of like I said, of all these Elvis movies, but these ones are, of course, are the classics. At number three is the famous Viva Las Vegas, and this probably would be one on a lot of people's list because of Anne Margaret. She was probably, of all the co-stars, his best co-star because she could dance, she could sing, and there is a lot of duets with them in this movie, and they just had a really good chemistry. And legend has it that they had a great chemistry off camera as well. And this movie, of course, is filmed in Las Vegas, and a lot of the sites and places around Vegas on the old, before the Vegas Strip, at old downtown Vegas, and yeah, filmed at the University. I think there's one scene at the University of Reno where they film a thing, and you know, you just get the sights of the area once again, of not being always in a studio but on location, and of course some of the most legendary songs. This is probably one of the better soundtracks as a whole, but of course Viva Las Vegas was a huge hit for him, and like I said, it's probably one on a lot of lists. And this is one that I own on Blu-ray. I just got the special edition, which I think is great that they're starting to release these on Blu-ray because I want to see these in high definition. But at number three, Viva Las Vegas. At number two, it was Elvis's second film, which is Loving You. He's about, this is 57, so he's pretty young in this, but this is classic Elvis. Loving You, of course, became a big hit, and it basically started the theme after Love Me Tender, where it was a Western, of the Elvis theme of movies where, you know, he's a young kid struggling, trying to make it, has a tough family life, whatever, and has the chip on his shoulder, so he's getting in fights, he's causing problems, but then also can fall back on the singing, and that's what, of course, draws people to him, is the singing. And this kind of started that theme. But there was something a little bit more natural in the earlier ones that made these films a little bit more endearing than as the later ones kind of became a little bit more campy and cheesy. But this was also one of the first Elvis movies I saw. Probably, maybe even before Spin Out, to tell you the truth. But this is definitely one of my favorites. I love the songs in it. I love the storyline. I love the way it's filmed, and it's a really strong film, and that comes in at number two. And at number one, the famous King Creole, filmed in New Orleans, co-starring Carolyn Jones, of course, who went on to do the Addams Family TV series, Walter Matthau, who, of course, became a superstar, and the late great Vic Morrow. As many know, Vic Morrow was killed filming Twilight Zone the movie, a couple years after doing Bad News Bears, and he kind of plays a tough kid who rivals Elvis in this movie, and then Walter Matthau kind of is the mob boss type character who Elvis is trying to help Carolyn Jones get free of, and all the meanwhile got a chip on his shoulder because of his family life, and he sings in a club called the King Creole, and he's battling for the girl. This one just got released on Blu-ray. I just ordered it, waiting for it to come in, so I'm really excited to watch that. Paramount's starting to release some of these films finally. But this is an A+ movie. I really love it. I enjoy it. The acting's great, and to see some of these young actors like Walter Matthau show you who he was going to become is pretty neat. So at number 1, King Creole. Anyways, I'm not going to go backwards today with my top 10. You can go and look and see, but I'll read them off real quick. King Creole at 1, Loving You at 2, Viva Las Vegas at 3, Blue Hawaii at 4, GI Blues at 5, Spin Out at 6, Jailhouse Rock at 7, Roustabout at 8, Kid Galahad at 9, and Fun in Acapulco at 10. So if you've seen some of these, revisit them. If you haven't, start watching them, see what you think. As I said, Elvis was a pretty good actor. So it's fun to see him in that element and really see him come alive, because he did a really good job in these. Anyways, check him out. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Until next time, we'll see you soon.